Alright everyone, welcome back to the second part of Nintendo Game Boy Player's Guide. We're in the action section, and the next game we're going to be talking about is Burger Time Deluxe from Data East. It's a two-player Game Link password backup game. You can be a Burgermeister. You're the chef in a dangerous fast food restaurant where customers are hungry for their burgers. By running up and down ladders, which causes buns and patties to land on the plates below, while avoiding evil hot dogs and other foods, you'll try to create the perfect burger. Your culinary skills require you to progress from level to level where the task becomes more complex and dangerous. There is a password in two-player mode. Next up is Castlevania the Adventure from Konami, one player. The stakes are high in Transylvania. Veteran vampire hunters will be excited by this new Transylvanian adventure. The action is very similar to the three Castlevania games for the NES, whipping enemies and torches with a premium on jumping skills and quickness. The action is a bit slower than it is on the NES, but in this game the difficulty level remains high. The haunting graphics from graveyards to dungeons are very good. There's no password, but there is a stage continue. Next up is Castlevania from a Rolo game, one player, spiraling your way to the top. Is Castlevania. The Castlevania is a mouse-like creature who finds himself trapped in a castle. As he ducks through doors and rides on elevators to avoid enemies, the Castlevania makes his way up 9 towers. The view rotates around the tower as the Castlevania dodges through doorways and appears on the far side of the tower. At first, the view and control seem awkward, but once you have the basics down, the game is fun and challenging. And we have Chase HQ from Taito. It's a one-player game. Out of my face, this ain't no race. When highway patrol missions are radioed to your squad car, you shift into high gear in pursuit of escaping criminals. Catching up to the bad guys, evading other cars, and staying on the road at high speed is the challenge. Unfortunately, the road doesn't change much from one chase to the next. As the game progresses, the bad guys have a greater lead, which does make it tougher. The dash layout has all the info you need, a big plus. We got Cyrade. Now, interesting thing about Cyrade, I always thought it was Cyrad. I never saw the I right there. But there's the I, as you can see here, but in the game description box there it is, Cyrade. From Epic, presented by Nextsoft, it's a two-player Game Link password backup game. Make your way through an impossible maze. This puzzle action game pits you against maze-type problems, in which you must collect energy capsules while avoiding enemies. When you first enter a room, some capsules seem to be impossible positions. By using ladders, blocks, switches, and your witch, you'll puzzle your way through to the next stage. You can choose between two characters or play with both of them using the Game Link option. Next we have Double Dragon from Trade West, two-player Game Link game. Head-knocking the Game Boy way. Fans of martial arts action will get a kick out of this classic battle of flying fists and feet. The graphics are remarkably close to the original game, but the characters move slowly and most of the thugs are fairly easy to defeat. The bosses, on the other hand, are incredibly tough. They really pack a punch and make the game worth a try. And another, and another. Dead Heat Scramble. Oh, there we go. Dead Heat Scramble. Two-player Game Link game from Electro Brain. Bumper bashing buggies. After choosing one of 3 types of off-road cars, you'll find yourself at the starting line of a racetrack waiting for the light to turn gray. It doesn't quite make sense, but it's fun. The track is long and winding, divided into segments that you must finish in a designated time period. Barrels, boulders, oil slicks, and competitors all can block the trough-like track and make you lose precious seconds. There is a Game Link option as well. Next up is Dragon's Lair, The Legend. Now, I want to try to get this game for the Game Boy. I haven't really been able to find it yet, but I'll try to look. I really haven't searched either, but it's from CSG Sony ImageSoft. It's a two-player game. Dirk the Daring lives. The legend continues with the adventures of Dirk the Daring. Although the play is far removed from the classic coin-op game, Dragon's Lair does have picturesque graphics. As Dirk, you must venture alone. It's a two-player alternating game to find 194 pieces of the Life Stone, which are scattered throughout 14 worlds. Dirk's mission is challenging and requires precise timing of frog-like hops through dangerous obstacles. Next up, we have Fish Dude from Soffle. It's a one-player password backup game. Interesting side note, Fish Dude is extremely rare, complete in box. It can go over $1,000. I think there's one on eBay right now for about $1,500 to buy. A video game introduction to the food chain. Fish Dude's goal is to eat all the little fish so he can be the biggest fish in the pond. But there's always someone bigger, so it's eat or be eaten. The concept is unique, and the game isn't as easy as it sounds because there are varied habitats to master, and the inhabitants are hungry. It can be tough to maneuver through some of the crowded underwater passages. A password feature will let you continue at higher difficulty levels. Fortress of Fear, Wizards & Warriors X, from Acclaim Entertainment, 1989, rare. One-player game. Fearless Kuros tackles horrific castle. The single-player challenge has Kuros hopping and fighting his way past medieval monsters, collecting gems and battling the ultimate evil, Malkill. The emphasis is on fun and in challenging action with clean, smooth graphics. The fortress is 5 levels, each with multiple sections filled with ferocious creatures and hidden rooms. You'll have to start from scratch each time you play since there's no password or continue. Fist of the North Star, from Electrobrain, 2-player game link game with a password feature. Face off for the biggest brawl of all. This game pits post-apocalyptic thugs and goons against each other in martial arts combat. You can select from among 11 fighters, each with his own special moves. Battle each of the other characters to become king of the universe. A password saves your progress as you move up in the standings. Although the game doesn't have a lot of variety, it is fun to play head-to-head in game link mode. Ghostbusters 2, from HAL Laboratories and Activision. It's a 1-player game. Who are you going to call? Ghostbusters. Ghosts are terrorizing your city, haunting buildings, and creating slime. One player controls a pair of Ghostbusters. Choose from Peter, Ray, Egon, and Winston, as one guy zaps them and the other guy traps them. Controlling 2 men at once makes for some strange play control until you get used to it. You have only 3 continues. Once you use them all up, you'll have to start over. There are 3 levels with multiple floors to purge of poltergeists. Next up, we have Go-Go Tank. Go-Go Tank is a 2-player game link game from Electrobrain. Help Go-Go Tank reach the enemy base. In the 1-player game, you control a plane while the tank chugs below you, trying to reach the enemy base. You must airlift blocks to clear a path for the tank while bombing enemy emplacements along the way. In the game link mode, it's 2 planes and 2 tanks trying to reach the same goal. You can block your opponent's tank with bombs, but a blocked tank will stop you too. It's challenging no matter which way you play. Then you have Gremlins 2, the new batch, from Sunsoft. It's a 1-player game. Gizmo's back and he's in big trouble. Gizmo returns to action in an adventure game based on the second movie. The Gremlins are on the loose again, and this 4-stage action game follows the fun from a side view as Gizmo leaps from one fix into another. He'll handle Gremlins and other foes single-handedly with spring-loaded boxing gloves and other wacky weapons. Bonus games between levels let you earn extra lives. The graphics are great and the soundtrack is catchy. Then we have Godzilla from Toho Company. It's a 1-player password backup game. Here's Godzilla. Super Monster Godzilla's new role, puzzle solver. Instead of leveling cities with his atomic breath, the Godzilla of Toho's Game Boy title using a boxing glove to smash rocks and punch out foes. Rather than making Earth safe for monsters, Godzilla is out to rescue his offspring from a maze of 64 puzzling rooms. A password feature saves your progress. Fans of Godzilla's city-stomping antics may not be thrilled with his new role, but you should like the game if you're into puzzlers. Then you have Hyanko Alien from Meldak Live Planning. It's a 2-player game link game. Dig and dash to save your city. Alien invaders are attempting to take over Japan. This time, old Kyoto is set upon by crawling creatures, and it's up to you to save the city armed with only a shovel. In this action puzzle game, you dig pitfalls for the pursuing aliens and bury them when they fall in. The 12 stages are packed with fast and furious action reminiscent of other maze chase games, such as Pac-Man. You can game link with a friend and work to bury the aliens faster. Next, we have The Hunt for Red October. It is a 2-player game link game from High Tech Expressions. An undersea battle in the Atlantic. Captain Marco Ramius of the Soviet naval fleet intends to defect to the United States by sailing across 8 sections of the Atlantic in the top-secret submarine Red October. This undersea thriller is at its best in the game link mode when player 1 controls the Red October and the other is in charge of the Soviet fleet. The odds are in the favor of the fleet, but the Red October can even it up by collecting pickups to power the silent drive. Then we have Kung Fu Master from Irem. It's a 1-player game. Master the martial arts. Irem's Kung Fu Master is a martial arts battle game similar to Double Dragon. The action is fast and furious, much faster than Double Dragon for Game Boy, complete with punches, kicks, and leaping attacks. The enemy Kung Fu fighters have their own styles of fighting and they leap out from behind walls in surprise attacks. Good animation and an ever-changing fight make this game fun and interesting. Now we have Hyper Load Runner from Bandai, 2-player game link game. Puzzling action on a quest for gold. Lode Runner is an intriguing action puzzle game in which you control a character trying to strike it rich. Your limited control options are to destroy blocks to the right, run left or right, or climb ladders. As soon as a miner touches you, the game is over. Your strategy must be to figure out how to trap the miners and reach all the lodes of gold. It isn't easy. The game includes a level select and edit mode to create your own challenging gold rush. And we have Lock and Chase, which is basically a Pac-Man clone. From Data East, it's a one-player game. Cops and Robbers. Lock and Chase is a classic maze game. You have robbed a bank and now the cops are after you. Each stage is a maze with coins and bonus items that appear randomly. Evade the police, grab the coins and bonus items, then move on to the next larger stage. The control is good and the stages get progressively more difficult and larger. You'll have to scroll through some of the larger mazes. Next up we have Maru's Mission from Jalico. It's a one-player game. Maru travels through the world to save Cory. This action game features Maru, a young man who must save his kidnapped girlfriend. There are 6 stages, each taking place in a different country. Several are underwater stages. In each area, you must battle past dangerous enemies to face the bosses. Cyclop and Insector are only 2 of the fiends you will face. You can collect several different weapons as you travel, and you'll use them all before you see your beloved Cory again. You got Mickey's Dangerous Chase from Capcom. It's a one-player game. Of Mice and Megs. Mickey Mouse comes to Game Boy in a fun action game similar to Disney's Rescue Rangers for the NES. Using either Mickey or Minnie Mouse as your character, you'll scamper through neighborhoods and malls, over roofs, and into secret rooms while beset by an assortment of enemies. The Mice heroes can pick up blocks and throw them for protection. You can also collect power-up items, but you'll have to explore to find the best items. We have Mercenary Force from Meldak, live planning from Lenar. It's a one-player game. A force of 4 against the might of many. You're putting together a small party of warriors in an attempt to restore peace to the land. 5 brave warriors have volunteered to go through 6 stages, but you can take only 4. Select the 4 warriors you want and begin your mission. You can choose from several attack formations and designate different leaders. If you find yourself in a sticky situation, you can even call upon a spirit warrior to help you out. Next we have Mousetrap Hotel from Milton Bradley. It's a one-player game. Maxie Mouse is on the move. Maxie Mouse crawls out of a hole in the wall and sets off on an adventure in a house bristling with traps and nasty surprises. Maxie can climb, run, and jump with ease, but one touch by an enemy sends him to mouse heaven. The graphics and sound are cute and fun, but the challenge isn't just for Mouseketeers. Timing your movements and learning how to avoid new traps will keep a man of any age or mouse scratching their head. Next we have Mr. Chin's Gourmet Paradise from Romstar. It's a one-player brick-smashing action game. Mr. Chin must try to get rid of the pesky creatures that have inhabited his land by transforming them into turnips. Jump and smash bricks with your head to discover the magical items you'll need to change the nasties into veritable feast. Mr. Chin's Gourmet Paradise is reminiscent of the arcade classic Mario Brothers, but has new twists that keep you hungry enough to come back for more. Next we have Navy SEALs. It's a one-player game from Ocean. Thwart the terrorist plot. A helicopter crew has been kidnapped by terrorists and it's up to you to save them. You must battle your way through 5 terror-infested stages to foil them. Early on, you are armed with only your pistol and limited ammunition. Conserve your shots and work your way through the lair. Make sure that you search the crates for extra bullets and more powerful weapons. Good luck. Now we have Mr. Do, another one of the rarest, at least top 5 rare games for the Game Boy Complete in box. It's from Ocean of America, one-player game. Mr. Do digs action. Dig up a load of buried cherries and avoid contact with crazy creatures in the side view action game that is much like Dig Dug. As Mr. Do, you can burrow tunnels in order to get to the cherries and at the same time elude the enemies who must travel along existing tunnels. If you dig under a boulder, it will drop down and block the path. There are 3 difficulty levels, so you can step into a challenge from the word go. Next we have Nemesis from Konami, an Ultra Games, one-player space adventure through an alien fortress. You'll be busy with an all-out attack on some of the most atrocious and vindictive aliens ever known. There are 5 levels of non-stop action with bonus levels in hidden areas. Power up your ship and take on wave after wave of foes. The automatic rapid fire will save your thumb from tiring out too quickly. Don't neglect your shields. If you do, you'll regret it dearly. Next up we have Ninja Boy from Culture Brain, one-player game. A Kung Fu kid jumps into action. Kick, punch, and somersault through 32 stages of martial arts action in a Game Boy rendition of Kung Fu Heroes for the NES. This is not Double Dragon. The hero and enemies are less realistic looking and much more like cartoon characters than those of most martial arts games. Weapons are more scarce in this game too. You have to rely mainly on hand-to-hand combat. In advanced stages, you learn new maneuvers and earn special items. Next we have Pac-Man from Namco. It's a 2-player Game Link game. An arcade classic that fits in your pocket. Namco's Pac-Man brings the pellet gobbling fun of Pac-Man to Game Boy. As everyone knows, the idea is to eat all the energy pellets on a stage while trying to avoid being eaten by enemies. The fun comes from the thrill of being chased. The game itself is incredibly simple, but that's part of the fun too. All you do is guide Pac-Man in the right direction. This version has a 2-player Game Link option, so you can share the fun. Next up, Operation C from Konami and Ultra Games. 1-player game. Will the aliens ever learn? Through 5 stages of fast-moving action, it's just you and your gun against invading aliens. Just hold the B button and you have turbo action to fire your weapon. The play control is smooth and the aliens get extremely tough. Practice will stack the deck in your favor. Look for safe spots and fire your gun from different angles. Although this is an action game, use a strategy that works best for you. Dodge and destroy, look before you leap. Next up we have Paperboy from Tengen and Minscape. 2-player game. Earn big bucks delivering papers. It's early in the morning and you mount your bicycle and head out on your paper route. The job is full of obstacles though. Skateboarders, dogs, construction workers, and a variety of other challenges try to prevent you from completing your rounds. Steer your bike through your treacherous route and fling your papers to your customers. Remember, a happy customer is a paying customer. You get big points for a mailbox delivery. Now we have Penguin Wars from Nexoft. 2-player Game Link game. Toss out animal adversaries. While the name of the game gives credit only to the penguin, this one-on-one battle of reflexes feature 5 different animal characters. A penguin, bat, rabbit, rat, and cow. 2 animals stand at opposite ends of a table, each with 5 balls. They then toss their balls to the other side of the table and avoid incoming balls. If all of the balls end up on the other side, or if you have the fewest balls on your side when time runs out, you win. Now we have The Punisher from LJN, 1-player game. Clean up gangster-ridden streets. Marvel Comics' vigilante marksman The Punisher is dead set on ridding the world of gun-toting villains. In this first-person perspective shoot-'em-up, you aim the sights of the Punisher's rifle on hoodlums, making sure to miss innocent bystanders. When you're on target, you learn tons of power-up items. While this game is reminiscent of Cabal, Operation Wolf, and Freedom Force for the NES, it's the first of its type for Game Boy. Now we have Power Racer from Tecmo. It's a 2-player Game Link game. Run fast and avoid collisions. The course for this unique racing game is square with 4 lanes and 4 open areas where you can change lanes. Your opponent travels in the opposite direction, and your goal is to collect all of the dots on the course while avoiding a head-on collision. Survival depends on choosing the right lanes and speeding up or slowing down to change into a lane that is not being used. Advanced stages feature special items and obstacles. Next we have Radar Mission from Nintendo. It's a 2-player Game Link game. Battle a fleet of naval forces. Radar Mission's 2 naval battle exercises require 2 types of gaming skills. The first game is strategy-oriented. Players lay out their ships, subs, and aircraft carriers on 2 grids and fire shots back and forth in an attempt to sink each other's fleets. A near-miss option lets players know when they're close to making a hit. The second game is periscope view submarine battle, in which players take aim on each other's forces in a more direct form of combat. Now we have Revenge of the Gator from HAL Laboratories. It's a 2-player game. A flipper frenzy with goofy gators. Set the ball into motion and ready the flipper buttons for an exciting game of pinball with great characters and super play control. The bumpers and obstacles on this 2-screen table are alligators who can hit the ball with their tails or get smacked on the snout with a direct hit. Knock the ball into the open mouth of a gator and you'll send it into one of several bonus screens. 2 players can alternate without using a game link. Next up, Roland's Curse. It's from American Sammy Corporation, 2-player Game Link password-backed game. A cursed kingdom needs your help. Evil creatures have descended upon a peaceful kingdom, and you've been called to fight through a maze-like land in search of their sinister source. You'll come across a lot of dead ends in your journey from castle to castle, and you'll find many special items. Use them to defeat creatures and break through obstacles in your path. Unlike some games with similar stories, this game focuses on simple action over complicated puzzle solving. Next up, RoboCop from Ocean, 1-player game. Patrol the streets of New Detroit. The future of law enforcement, RoboCop, blazes through the criminal-infested streets of New Detroit in this 10-stage straight-ahead action game. If you're very quick on the draw, and if you can maneuver fast enough to avoid grenade blasts and machine gun fire, law and order will prevail. Some stages break from the left to right scrolling view and show the action from RoboCop's perspective. Next up, we have R-Type from Irem. It's a one-player game. Take on a fleet of Earth-threatening aliens. A group of alien ships representing the evil Bido Empire are on a collision course for the Blue Planet. Only you, daring space explorer, can stop them. This 6-stage shoot-'em-up features fantastic graphics and great play control. The super detailed alien leaders are worth the price of admission alone. If you've played the arcade version of this thriller, you'll be amazed at how well it fits into the compact video game system. Next up, we have Serpent from Taxan, 2-player GameLink game. Box and a rival Serpent. Pilot a snake-like machine in a closed arena and try to box in your opponent. By closing in small areas, you'll uncover special items that will allow you to fire missiles and increase or decrease the length of your machine. The 8 levels of play offer combinations of different play speeds, additional enemies, and the ability to reverse your machine if it is boxed in. The play control is difficult to understand initially, but you will get used to it. Snoopy's Magic Show from Kemco. It's a 2-player GameLink password backup game. An epic battle of the Beagles. Snoopy's cousin Spike has kidnapped Woodstock and his foul friends. Armed with only your intellect and reflexes, you must guide Snoopy through more than 100 perplexing rooms. Avoid the bouncing balls pursuing you and use any power-ups to your advantage. The clock is ticking, and if time runs out, it could be a canine calamity for Snoopy and his buddies. Next up, we have Sneaky Snakes. It's from Rare and Tradewest, 2-player GameLink game. Reptilian Romeos to the rescue. Attila and Genghis, 2 eccentric serpents, are in a race against time to rescue their beloved Sonia from the coils of the nefarious, nasty Nibbler. Wriggle your way across shark-infested waters, through bubbling lava caves, and over deadly spiked floors. Let your fingers do the slithering as you guide our heroes through 16 laborious levels, with only the liberation of fair Sonia on their minds. Solar Striker, it's a 1-player game from Nintendo. Blazing interstellar action. The aliens are coming in force and you've been sent out to stop them, single-handedly. Nintendo's lightning-fast outer space shoot-'em-up puts you at the controls of a space fighter jet. The forward-scrolling action makes quick reflexes essential. Pick up weapon pods to enhance your armaments while dodging incoming missiles and alien fighters. If you have trouble with the stage boss, find the safe zone and let it scroll past. The control, graphics, and sound are all top-notch. Next we have Super Mario Land from Nintendo, a 1-player game. Pasta time, don't run out of time. Mario runs, jumps, flies, and even uses a submarine in his new 4-world adventure. Traverse the desert, water, and the not-so-friendly skies in search of the lovely Daisy, who has been stolen away by Tatanga. Earn extra lives by collecting 100 coins and by mastering the bonus round after most stages. Earn a continue every 100,000 points to keep playing in the more difficult worlds. Mario's many fans will appreciate his new portable adventure. Next we have Tasmania Story. It's a 1-player game from FCI Pony Canyon. Down under with munching marsupials. Tasmanian wolves are hunting you down while you try to clear through stage of cacti. Although the storyline of FCI's fast-paced action puzzle is far-fetched, the challenge is very real. Using a trampoline to bounce up to the many ledges, you'll face voracious marsupials at every turn. The toughest challenge, however, is mastering the controls, which are extremely touchy. You'll have to be very patient if you expect to survive down under in this game. Next we have Tailgater, another very rare game complete in box. I saw one on eBay for about $600. From Natsumi, 1-player password game. Courageous heroism reptile style. The kingdom of Moberry has fallen against the evil forces of the dragon warlord Basso Gilla. Can you guide Charlie, the highland alligator, through the warlord's fortress and defeat evil Basso? Armed with only a powerful tail and a love for Moberry, your journey will be difficult as you explore each fortress room. A key to the next room is always there, but can you help Charlie find it? Every move counts, and the entire kingdom hangs in the balance. Next up, Torpedo Range, 1-player battery backup game from Romstar. The hunt is on. Elements of the terrorist group called the Global Armed Alliance, or GAA, now control the air and sea. They have also captured port cities around the world. Your assignment as commander of an advanced tactical battle submarine is to neutralize the GAA and restore peace to the planet. With every air and sea battle, you gain experience and a chance to improve your steady, formidable battle sub with stronger defenses and weapons. Next up, we have TMNT Follow the Foot Clan, 1-player game from Konami and Ultra Games. A totally tubular turtle tale. Very good game, by the way. Experience mind-blowing action as well as brain-teasing games in the latest TMNT chapter. April has once again fallen into the clutches of Shredder, and it's up to your favorite martial arts masters to save the day. Battle your way through 5 stages packed with hordes of ninjas and masses of marauding monsters. Get a potent pizza power boost on your way to a showdown at the Technodrome. April must be saved. No problemo, right, compadres? And the last game in the section of action is called Tracks. Tracks is a 4-player game link game from HAL Laboratories. Make tracks through enemy territory. The focus of this tank battle seems to be more on the comic side than most military missions. While the tank that you control is very powerful and there are plenty of power-ups for multi-directional shots and grenades, it isn't as high-tech looking as some of the massive enemy tanks. Your mission is to roll through enemy territory and take those tanks down with your own machine. You can game link to challenge up to 3 other players in the closed arena. The next section we're going into is Puzzle, and the first game is Alleyway. It's a 1-player game from Nintendo. A blockbuster on the rebound. One of the first titles produced for Game Boy, Alleyway, features classic ping-pong type action. By maneuvering a Mario Man spaceship back and forth along the bottom of the screen to return a bouncing ball, players break the blocks above. It begins with easy stages and becomes more challenging every round. Although less sophisticated than some of the newer games available, it has good sound effects and play control. Bill and Ted's Excellent Game Boy Adventure. It's a 2-player password backup game from LJN and Nelson. The most dudeful dudes are time warping. Heinous dude Nomolus is messing with the future, so Bill and Ted have to travel back and forth through time, collecting the time fragments he stole. Only when all the fragments are restored will a safe future be possible. Their search begins in Austria circa 1805. Play solo or decide who will be Bill and who will be Ted in the 2-player game. Play control is challenging, but it might be just the game for big fans of the duo. Next up, we have Boxel. From FCI, Pony Canyon, 1-player password backup game. A boxing match of a different kind. Boxes, boxes, and more boxes. You must place each box in its specific home space, which is possible only if you make the right moves in the right order. Every room is a puzzle in itself, and the game's passkey feature lets you return to whichever you choose. And if the dozens of progressively complex rooms aren't challenge enough, you can also select the Create mode to design your own room configurations. Puzzle game fans won't be able to put it down. Next up is Daedalian Opus. It's a 1-player password backup game from Vic Tokai. Picking up the pieces. Mythical mazes were no more puzzling than this game is. You begin level 1 with 4 puzzle pieces in an empty space. The object is to arrange the pieces so that they will fill the entire space. With each level, you gain a puzzle piece. It takes time to work your way through the level, so it's a good thing that it accepts passwords. Of course, there isn't much action in this game, but people who like brain teasers should find it an entertaining challenge. Next up, we have Katrap. It is a 1-player game from Asmic. It's password backup. Cool cats, rock 'em and sock 'em. Cutie cats break blocks, move rocks, and perform robot socks to clear rooms and advance to the next round. All items are strategically placed in the beginning. Your challenge is deciding which can be used to form platforms or to fill in gaps, enabling you to reach the rockin' robots and knock them out. The password feature lets you return to any room, and an unusual edit function lets you retrace your last series of moves to try something different. Next up is Dexterity, a 2-player game link game from SNK of America. Test your tile-turning technique. How dexterous are you? You must turn over all the tiles in the room to end the round, but harassing hatchlings insist on turning them back as quickly as they can. You can temporarily trap them by flipping a whole line at a time, but they can eat back at you. Easy early stages allow you to get the hang of the game, but they rapidly become more difficult as new hatchlings and obstacles are added. If you're ambidextrous, this is the game for you. Next up is Dr. Mario. It is a 2-player game link game from Nintendo. What's up, Doc? Feisty viruses, that's what, and if they escape, they'll spread like the plague. Dr. Mario tosses out vitamins, and when you place 3 over a virus of the same shade, you'll wipe it out. When all are gone, you clear the screen and progress to the next level. Like the popular NES version, it is a 2-player mode that is especially fun. Players set their own levels, so 2 with different experience levels can still have a competitive contest. Next up is the Game of Harmony. It's a 1-player game from Accolade. Enter a new age of serene software. A game that demands relaxation? Believe it. You control the Seeker, a sphere containing a directional arrow. Your goal is to synergize the other pulsating orbs on the screen by pushing those containing matching shapes together. These energy spheres eventually explode if not united with a like orb. But when they are, they dissipate harmoniously into the atmosphere. Good luck! Next up is Flipple. It is a 2-player game link game from Taito. Keep cool, Cube Crasher. It's you against the cubes in the strategy game from Taito. Each is marked with 1 of 4 symbols, and they're stacked in various shapes. You, the strategist, eliminate blocks by throwing your block at others with the same symbol. When you clear the screen, move on to more challenging stages. Rack up the points by clearing more than one block at once and by working quickly. You have to think several moves ahead in this fast-paced puzzler. Next up is Hatris. It is a two-player game-link game from Bulletproof Software. The Mad Hatter is working overtime. From crowns to cowboy hats and bowlers to beanies, the Mad Hatter is dropping them all. You must stack them caps on caps, top hats on top hats. When you pile up 5 of a kind, they disappear, and with every match you accumulate points. See how your skills stack up against an opponent in the two-player mode. It moves quickly and gives you a chance to make your foe blow his stack. Next up is Clax. It is a one-player game from Tengen and Atari. When the waves hit, go with the flow. The pattern tiles come in waves, and your job is to keep a cool head and stack them with others of the same patterns. When you pile them 3 high, they form a clax and vanish, clearing the spot for a new stack. Get your sea legs in level 1, then get fancy and form designs with the tumbling tiles in later rounds. Some designs produce secret warps. Crisp sound and solid play control make this game interesting and challenging. Next we have Loops. It is a 2-player game-link game from Minscape. Square it up to score big. Minscape's Connect the Pieces puzzler will really throw you for a loop. The object of the game is to complete a loop using the various shapes that randomly appear on the screen. Half loops, corners, lines, and zigzags show up one at a time, and you have just a few seconds to decide where you're going to put each. The more complicated the shape you complete, the more points you'll rack up, so the game is just as tough as you want to make it. Next up we have Quirk, 2-player game-link game from Acclaim and Atlas. Has this hip tomato flipped out? Behind the shades is a tomato determined to pick his way through the maze of rooms ahead. Each room is a puzzle and many obstacles block your way. Only by flipping, pushing, and turning them in the correct order will you clear a path to this door. In Stage 1, you'll figure out how each obstacle moves in rooms that are fairly easy to clear. Stages 2 and 3 are more complex, though. It is a challenging game that has 3 play modes and dozens of rooms. Next up, we have Pipe Dream. It is a 2-player game-link password backup game from Lucasfilms and Bulletproof Software. If the flues leaks, it's a nightmare. Don't hire a plumber, do it yourself, and find out why plumbers are paid so well. Pick up the pipe wrench and start connecting the pieces that appear on the screen. Hurry! When the flue starts oozing, you have to stay one step ahead of the flow. If it leaks out of the end before you can connect a piece of pipe, you're sunk. Build up points fast by crossing existing pipes. In the 2-player mode, players actually help rather than hinder one another. Next up is Cubillion. It is a 2-player game-link game from Sita. It's time to clean house. Mouser is cleaning out the warehouse, but the mini rodent can manage to move only 1 box at a time. When they're stacked, you have to figure out how to reach the top boxes to push them off. To clear them, place 4 boxes with the same symbols in any side-by-side configuration. In the 2-player mode, you have to think fast and solve the puzzles before your opponent does. It's a challenging game that forces you to plan sequential steps in advance. Next up, we have Quarth. 2-player game-link game from Konami and Ultra Games. Break them up with the blockbuster. If the shapes that fall from above crash into the Quarth dome at the bottom, you're Quarthed and the game is over. To protect the dome, pilot your blockbuster along the bottom of the screen and fire blocks at the shapes. When the blocks combine with the shapes to form complete squares or rectangles, you wipe them out. The 2-player mode is especially fun because you can surprise your opponent by speeding the action up and hiding shapes on their screen. Next up we have Quicks, 2-player game-link game from Nintendo and Taito. Get your kicks rounding up the Quicks. When you begin the Quicks, a bouncing beam has a screen to itself. Your goal is to block its access to 75% of the screen while avoiding the sparks that travel along the perimeter. Press A and up on the control pad to begin closing off chunks of free space, but don't let the Quicks bounce into you before you complete your line. The real challenge is coming close to the 75%, then marking off a huge section of the remaining screen with your last move to build big bonus points. Next up we have Solomon's Club. It is a 1-player password backup from Tecmo. Now you see it, now you don't. A magician with a magic wand that makes blocks appear and disappear moves through various rooms as he figures out which paths lead to their exits. Each room holds a key that he must pick up in order to open the exit door. He also collects various treasures and coins while avoiding the fire of strategically placed enemies. The rooms range from quite simple to very complex, but the convenient built-in stage select lets you begin at your own skill level. And the last game in the puzzle section is Tetris. It is a 2-player game-link game from Nintendo. Line up for a popular puzzler. Tetris has taken Game Boy players by storm. It's simple to learn, yet there are dozens of strategies that can make you a more advanced player. 7 4-block patterns fall into the screen, and it is your job to arrange them so that they form horizontal lines. Completed lines disappear and help make the stack of blocks a more manageable height. If you score multiple line completions in a 2-player game, lines are transferred to your opponent's screen. The next section we're going into is Adventure, and the first game is Altered Space. It is a 1-player game from CSG Sony ImageSoft. A 3D adventure on an alien spaceship. Altered Space, much like the NES game Solstice, is an adventure with a 3D perspective and plenty of puzzles. The action takes place on an 8-stage alien craft. As Humphrey, an astronaut, you've got to find a way to elude the enemies and escape while your oxygen supply holds up. You'll find items along the way that will help you unlock important hatches and pass the many obstacles within the ship. Next up is Cosmo Tank. It is a 2-player game-link game from Atlas. Take off for alien blasting action. Insect-like aliens have taken over the 5 planetary colonies of Earth, and as the commander of the Tiger space tank, you have to send them packing. You'll touch down on each planet, take on the surface forces, then enter tunnels to destroy the alien life cores. Surface battles are shown in an overhead view, and tunnel battles take place in first-person perspective. Game link to race against another player in a short version of the mission. Next up is Disney's DuckTales. It is a 1-player game from Capcom. Uncle Scrooge fits the bill. Join Scrooge McDuck and his nephews on a journey to the exotic underground of the African mines in the jungles of the Amazon and blast off to the moon in search of treasures galore. There are 5 lands in all, with hidden rooms and illusionary walls to walk and to pogo through. In every land except Transylvania, Launchpad will offer you passage back to the land select option. Enjoy! Next up is Fortified Zone. It is a 2-player game-link password backup game from Jalico. A mission behind enemy lines. A 2-person team of special military agents is on a mission to blast its way through several maze-like enemy compounds and take down the compound leaders. In a 1-player game, you can switch from one team member to the next in mid-play, and in the Game Link game, you and your partner can split up and search different rooms at the same time. It pays to explore because there are helpful items along the way. Next up, we have Gauntlet 2. It is a 2-player Game Link game from Tengen. Survive the dangers of a giant dungeon. Many of the features that made Gauntlet 2 popular in arcades are included in this Game Boy version. 1 or 2 players can choose to control a warrior, wizard, Valkyrie, or elf, and then explore dozens of dungeon rooms. It even includes digitized voices that let you know when you have collected a special item or when your character needs food. There's a lot of detail to the graphics, but sometimes it's hard to distinguish items from enemies. Next up is Gargoyle's Quest. It is a 1-player password backup game from Capcom. Firebrand, Guardian of the Ghoul Realm. The sequel to the NES game Ghosts and Goblins combines challenging elements of your favorite role-playing games with plenty of action and adventure. You must make your way through 6 towns, 3 castles, and a windy desert to gather items and find the powers of a legendary gargoyle warrior, Red Blaze, before evil King Breeger overruns the Ghoul Realm. Mega Man and Dr. Wily's Revenge. It is a 1-player password backup game from Capcom. The Doctor is in, again. No matter how many times Mega Man defeats Dr. Wily, this mad mechanical genius will never learn his lesson. He's back with some of his most sinister robots for another round in what serves as a who's who list of Mega Man villains. In classic Mega Man style, you can choose to conquer the first 4 worlds in any order while accumulating the special powers of the downed villains. Next, take on Dr. Wily in another action-packed finale. Next up, we have The Rescue of Princess Blobette, 1-player game from Absolute. The boy and his blob are back. Once you figure out that each of your 14 jelly bean flavors changes the blob into a different tool, you'll get through the locked doors and dead ends in no time. Your blob is lost? No problem. Just throw a ketchup jelly bean and he'll catch up. A jump too high? How about a tangerine trampoline or a licorice ladder? You'll need a backpack full of beans to pull off this rescue. Collect them all. Next up, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, 1-player password backup game from Capcom. Roger Rabbit's trek through Toontown. Armed with your spring-loaded boxing glove, help our hairy hero find the hidden pieces of the will and save Jessica from the clutches of Judge Doom. Some of your obstacles include bomb-throwing garbage cans and not-so-friendly policemen. Great graphics and gameplay that is easy to understand make this an exciting adventure. The last game in the Adventure series is Spud's Adventure. It is a 2-player Game Link password backup game from Atlas. Another really rare complete-in-box game. Ferocious fruits and crazy cooks. As Spud the Wanderer, you must make your way through the 4 levels of the Far Tower to rescue your beloved Princess Mado. Many challenges await you, including puzzle rooms, invisible secret passages, and even rooms with no lights. Link up with a friend for added challenge in verse mode or go solo in adventure mode. It's a tasty mix of wacky food characters and role-playing. Next up, we have quiz/productivity section. First up is French Language Translator. It is a 1-player situation from Berlitz Publications and Infogenius. Beyond French fries and quiche. Is your knowledge of French limited to words like champagne and brie? Like the InfoGenius Spanish-English language translator, the French version is handy for travelers. Along with translating the language, it also converts metric units and currency, a feature that is useful in day-to-day communication. It has a vocabulary of more than 12,000 words and contains simple phrases that can be helpful to travelers. Next up, we have Frommer's Travel Guide. It's a one-player from Simon & Schuster. Feel right at home on the road. Now you can learn almost anything you want to know about any of the 15 most traveled cities in the nation. When you arrive in a new city, find out what restaurants are nearby, what sports events are happening, or what sights there are to see. As for hotels and restaurants, you can access listings by price, location, or both, and entries include descriptions and reservation policies. Also handy are the listings of toll-free numbers and travel agencies. Next up, we have the Spanish language translator from Berlitz Publications, one player, the perfect travel companion. If you're traveling to a Spanish-speaking country and haven't had time to learn the language, the InfoGenius language translator might be the perfect pal to pack along. It quickly and easily translates words and phrases from Spanish to English and back again. Common activities such as asking for directions, ordering dinner, and checking into your hotel are all easier when you have your Game Boy close at hand. The currency converter is especially useful. Next up, we have the Personal Organizer. It's one-player battery backup from Game Tech. Get your act together. If you've ever missed an appointment, forgotten a special occasion, or wish that you had a vital phone number with you, you'll be interested in the InfoGenius Personal Organizer program. It has many of the features that you find in organizer books, but it's both electronic and portable. A notepad, a calculator, an address and telephone book, and monthly calendars covering more than 100 years are all included. Next up, we have Spell Checker. It is a one-player from Houghton Mifflin, an electronic dictionary at your fingertips. Game Boy proves that it is useful for more than just playing games. The Spell Checker, one of the InfoGenius line of productivity packs, makes Game Boy a handy reference as well. It is a vocabulary of more than 60,000 of the most commonly misspelled words and an on-screen keyboard that allows you to enter words and search for their correct spellings. It also lists other words that are similar in sound or spelling. Next up, we have Jeopardy! It is a 2-3-player Game Link game from Game Tech. And the correct question is, fans of the long-running television program will enjoy challenging themselves with Game Boy Jeopardy! Play is much like that of the original game, with a variety of categories and answers ranging in value from $100 to $500 in regular Jeopardy! If you're lucky, you might even come across a daily double or two. You can play solo against the computer with one other person, or Game Link with more. Good spellers will excel playing this version. And we have Wheel of Fortune. It is a 2-player game from Game Tech. Spin the wheel and win your fortune. Wheel of Fortune becomes more than just a spectator's game in its Game Boy version. Play against a computer, against a friend, or really set the odds in your favor by playing without an opponent. You spin the wheel, select letters, and build up the cash to buy vowels. A minivan of wannabe turns the letters, and when you solve the puzzle, you move on to a new category. Chances are, if you like the TV show, you'll like the Game Boy game. Next up, we have RPG, and the first up is the Final Fantasy Legend from one-player battery backup game from Squaresoft. The Tower to Paradise awaits. Legend says that a tall tower in the center of the world leads to paradise. You can find out if the stories are true by recruiting a party of adventurers and climbing the tower floor by floor. There are 4 magic spheres that you'll have to collect in 4 world-sized floors before you can continue your ascent. Solve great mysteries and take on huge evil creatures in this role-playing adventure for Game Boy. Next up is Final Fantasy Legend 2, one-player battery backup game from Squaresoft. Search for the mystical Magi. The second chapter of the Final Fantasy Legend is even larger and more involved than the first. This time there are 9 worlds to explore, and your mission is to collect the 77 pieces of a mystical statue. Your recruits include robots, slimes, and imps. Once you have all the pieces that have been hidden in a given world, you'll be able to move on to the next world through the Pillar of the Sky. Next up, we have Mysterium. It is a one-player password backup game from Asmic. The Mysterium is a 10-floor maze packed with puzzles and crawling with creatures. It's your challenge to wind your way through a first-person perspective view and solve the mysteries that lie in its deepest, darkest passages. Pools of fire, water, acid, and mercury can be used to transform the items that you pick up into useful tools and weapons. When you come across enemies, switch to aim mode and blast them with magic. Next up is the Sword of Hope. It is a one-player password backup game from Kemco. A Call to Destiny. As Prince Theo of Rickhar, it's your destiny to free the kingdom from an evil dragon. To do so, you will have to fight the forces of darkness, find clues, and retrieve the hidden Sword of Hope. Here's an exciting adventure with the scope of an RPG and gameplay similar to its NES hit Shadowgate. Excellent graphics and text bring the fantasy to life, and the password makes it easy to continue your quest whenever you want. Next up, we have Nobunga's Ambition. It is a 2-player Game Link battery backup game from K-O-E-I. Civil War in Ancient Japan. Play a role in history and try to make Oda Nobunaga's dream of nationhood a reality. There are over 100 historically based characters to choose from. Japan is in absolute chaos at the game's start. First, smooth over domestic relations and build a strong base so you can influence other fiefs, then build an army and prepare for war. This game is not for beginners, but truly a joy for the expert. Next up, Ultima, The Ruins of Virtue, two-player Game Link game, battery backup from Pony Canyon and FCI. Recover the missing ruins. In the Game Boy adventure of Lord British, the Black Knight has stolen the 8 ruins of virtue. To find them, you must search the 8 caverns in which they're hidden. Along the way, you will find magical items that will help you battle the many enemies you'll encounter. The 8 levels are complex and varied, and above ground, you will travel by land and by sea. Play control is great, graphics are clear, and RPG fans are sure to like it. Then we have the sports section. First up is Baseball. This is a two-player Game Link game from Nintendo. Baseball the way it ought to be. Two different views of the game give this title its special edge. An inset screen of the base paths help you keep a close watch on runners' progress, and the main screen puts you right in the middle of the action. Play in the USA or Japan. Play 1 or 2 players. However you play, you'll be in total control of your batters, pitchers, fielders, and runners. A handy readout of stats keeps you up on all the important information. Next up, Blades of Steel, two-player Game Link game from Ultra Games and Konami. One of the best hockey games I've ever played, by the way. Play it right and net a goal. Hockey has made it to the Game Boy, and it sure is slick. The action is smooth, but you can still rough it up and incite a fight scene if you're not careful. Choose practice, exhibition, or tournament mode. When you feel ready for the tournament, choose difficulty levels ranging from junior, college, and pro. Play team hockey and maneuver your team to get the highest percentage shots if you want to succeed. Then we have Bases Loaded, two-player Game Link game from Jalico. I hate this game, side note. Batter up, it's time to play ball. The great American pastime comes to Game Boy. You'll have to make a lot of decisions in this game. You can choose from among 3 play modes and select your team, players, and the number of innings you want to play. While the screen shows you the action up close, an inset screen keeps track of the base runners. Pitchers and batters can even be moved around for more realistic play. Next up, we have Days of Thunder, a 4-player Game Link game from Minscape. Are you ready for a wild ride? In Game Boy's latest racing game entry, you climb behind the wheel of number 46, rookie Cole Trickle's NASCAR Thunderhog. Race against an all-pro field or against up to 3 friends. Select from among 5 real NASCAR tracks to begin the season and tour them all. Play control is challenging, but the game has lots of real-life racing features that keep it interesting. Next up, we have Extra Bases. Side note, I really want to try to find this game somewhere. 2-player Game Link password backup game from Bandai and Namco. Take me out to the ballpark. The action is seen from the batter's point of view. Split screen of the runners leading off from their bases is helpful. When the pitchers tire out and you can see perspiration rising, you know it's time to think about substituting a relief pitcher. 2 aspects of the play that make it exciting are the ability to jump and catch a streaming line drive and the ability to throw to a cutoff man. Next up, we have Golf. It is a 2-player Game Link battery backup game from Nintendo. Tea time was never so much fun. One of the best golf games for any system, Game Boy Golf from Nintendo combines excellent graphics and play features with the convenience of a battery pack. Other useful features include the ability to scroll the screen to view an entire hole or green, and an indicator that shows how many yards remain between the ball and the pin. There are 2 courses and a Game Link option for more variation, plus a scorecard on which you monitor your game. Next up, we have F1 Race. It is a 4-player Game Link battery backup game from Nintendo. The #1 formula for fun. Race through 14 international Formula 1 courses in the first Game Boy game that allows for as many as 4 simultaneous game linking players. When you're not challenging your friends, you can enter the Grand Prix circuit and go against a field of computer-controlled racers. You'll have to be well practiced, though, because you'll be able to move on to the next track only if you cross the finish line in first place. Now we have HAL Wrestling, a 2-player Game Link game from HAL. Body slamming action is here. Enter the ring only if you dare. Choose single match action or go crazy and play 4-on-4 elimination. With 8 monsters of mayhem to choose from, you can make up an endless variety of teams. This international wrestling lineup gives you all the holds, moves, and action you'll ever want. It takes a while to figure out everybody's special moves, but that's part of the fun. Good luck and play within the rules. Next up, we have Heavyweight Championship Boxing, a 1-player game from Activision. You can run, but you can't hide. Sooner or later, you'll have to stand toe-to-toe, eyeball-to-eyeball with the champ. But first, you've got to slug your way through a bunch of really tough opponents. Jabs, uppercuts, hooks, you'll need them all in these 12-round battles. 2 different screen angles keep you on your toes and maybe off your back. Fast finger action and anticipation should help you along. May the best man win. Next up, Malibu Beach Volleyball, 2-player Game Link game from Activision. Dude, it's beach volleyball Malibu style. Yo, Spike, crank it up big time. It's an international volleyball tournament that will stretch your thumbs to the max. Choose from 3 play options and 4 international teams. Get ready to dig, spike, dive, and set. Keeping your eye on the crosshair helps you to know where to set up for your next shot. An up and down screen scroll keeps you focused on the ball. GameLink makes things even hotter. Next up is In Your Face. It is a 2-player GameLink game from Jalico. It's Slamma-Jamma time. This is the game that takes basketball to the streets. It's 1-on-1 and 2-on-2 schoolyard basketball at its toughest. Speed is essential here. With lots of open court, the action is fast and frenzied. Teamwork and man-to-man skills are equally important to master. And don't forget to play tough belly-to-belly D. It can really pay off. If you slam dunk well, you'll be rewarded with 2 points in a replay. Motocross Maniacs. It is a 2-player GameLink game from Ultra Games and Konami. Mud and Mayhem. If you like Excitebike for the NES, you'll want to check out Ultra's Motocross Maniacs. The courses include jumps, mud, loop-the-loops, and other challenges. Race against the computer, a friend, or the clock in practice because the controls can be tricky. Until you get the hang of leveling out the bike as you make a jump, you'll end up turning somersaults and losing time. Keep up your speed to reach the higher ramps. Next up, we have NBA All-Star Challenge from 2-player GameLink game from LJN. Mix it up NBA style. With 27 NBA All-Stars to choose from, this game is a delight for experts and beginners as well. Choose from 1-on-1, free throws, horse, accuracy shootout, and tournament modes. You can select not only your favorite All-Star, but also your opponent. Time limits may also be set. Get a friend to join in and play the dream challenge of any NBA fan, going 1-on-1 with the very best. Next up, we have Nintendo World Cup. It is a 2-player GameLink password backup game from Nintendo. Get a step on the competition. Select from 13 countries. Countries is spelled wrong. It's C-O-N-T-R-I-E-S. It should be C-O-U, I believe, right? Or maybe countries is spelled right, I don't know. Each with its own capabilities. Super shots are one of the quickest ways to score, but you are allowed only 5 per half. Once the super shots have been used, you may still power kick. Pass the ball frequently and employ team play to better ensure a high percentage attempt at the goal. The password feature allows you to continue play at advanced levels. Next up, we have NFL Football, a 2-player GameLink game from Konami. Kick off with the real pros. This action-packed sports game features all the NFL teams, the real teams. Choose from a wide range of offensive plays and defensive formations. It's either you against the computer or you against a friend in the 2-player mode. A neat feature is the overhead glimpse eye view of the playing field. Smart strategy goes a long way in this game. Mix it up with equal levels of running and passing. By the way, this game is horrible. This game, however, is really good. Play action football, 2-player GameLink game from Nintendo. Snap your chin strap, the action is hot. 4 levels of skill, 8 teams, 4 quarters. It all adds up to professional action. Careful play selection on offense and shrewd selection or formations on defense are where the game is won or lost. Once the action starts, quick thumbs can help you into the end zone. Practice your passing game and open field running. They pay off big time. There's little left to chance because this game relies heavily on strategy. Next up, we have Side Pocket, a 2-player GameLink game from Data East. It's pool, and that rhymes with cool. Chalk up your cue and choose 9-ball or regular pool. Either way, you'll need a sharp eye and a good head for angles. A power meter, total directional control, and a path preview feature all combined to make this a very realistic pool game. Don't just blast away and hope for the best. You must select your shot carefully and pay close attention to the power meter. Next up is Skater Die Toward a Thrash from 2-player GameLink password backup game from Electronic Arts. Radical action on the boards, dude. Electronic Arts has continued the legacy of Skater Die with this amazing sequel. Choose an adventure with the Stalefish Tour that begins in Los Angeles or go to the Retro Rocket ramp scene. Beginners and experts alike will enjoy the action and the handling of the play control. The GameLink brings in an added feature that will consume your playing time and competitive spirit. Next up, we have Skater Die Bad and Rad, 1-player game from Konami. Yo, dude, more thrash and action for the Game Boy. It's bad, it's rad, it's just right for the Game Boy. Thrash your way through 4 stages of side view skateboard action. You'll encounter many obstacles in your tubular travels. You must jump, duck, and skate past everything in your way as you navigate several types of treacherous terrain. You can even jump and smash enemies with your deck. It's a challenging ride. Skate tough or stay home. And this will conclude part 2. Stay tuned for part 3.